Hello everyone, and welcome to our Day 7 video for our Introduction to Python course. Today, we're going to be going through our first walkthrough project for Python, which will include functions and all of the fundamental knowledge you've learned in this course up until now. Today, in this video, we will be covering the project. Basically, you will be walking through the project with me. I will guide you on how you can navigate a sample project with the Python knowledge we have so far, using functions and whatsoever. This project is going to be a to-do list maker, which will basically do the following. You will ask for the user input on their tasks based on name, date to complete, and priority. You will add a to-do, remove a to-do, edit a to-do, and view a to-do. You will also be able to execute these with a while loop. This would be really helpful to follow along with, as we didn't really cover while loops with function incorporation, except for the few examples where I attempted to show how while loops could work, how it could infinitely run, how it could crash, etc. We didn't typically go over while loops, so I would suggest reviewing past videos where we did cover for and while loops, because those are good to differentiate between, as well as looking through outside resources on how you can implement functions with while loops, because that will be really helpful with this project. However, this project, we will be incorporating a lot more than just the basic knowledge, which it'll be really helpful if you walk through, because then you'll expand your knowledge on functions and while loops as well. We will also cover how to create a new file, read the file, and write the file. This is really new. We have not covered this concept. So if you plan on taking a challenge and attempting it with just a few hints I give you, with just this criteria, or solely on your own making an entirely new scratch to-do list maker with just this info, it'll be really hard if you don't know how to create and write to a file. So before you actually try to do it on your own, I would at least follow along this step in the code along with how you create, read, write, and close the file, because that'll be really crucial for actually creating this to-do list. And congratulations to you guys, this is your first project with Python at the first line. After this project, I highly request you go to our YouTube page in the link section to complete the quiz 2, or if you are currently in the website, which, by the way, update will be released in January, so if this is January you, or further along, February, March, whatever, you will see that in the Python course, after this video, once you complete this video, the next step is quiz number 2, so please do complete it, because it'll go over functions, all the stuff we've learned up until now, a quick review, for loops, if else, all of that. It'll be really helpful if you do complete it. After this Day 7 video, the Day 8 video will be practicing with functions, and the future videos will include advanced concepts with objects and data types, which will be really helpful if you want to manipulate specific things and use them into a more enticing way than just printing them out or using them to create new lists, whatever. Soon enough, we will start object-oriented programming, which includes classes, definition of classes, incorporating functions with classes, and using that to make a whole framework for your code, different classes with different functions. Functions can be small attributes to the whole class, which is a huge component of a specific thing you need to do in a project. This is going to be super helpful in your Python journey, and I really hope that you stick along to learn about this. This is lucky for you guys if you know Java and C++. It is different with Python, but most of the familiar concepts is familiar, polymorphisms, inheritance, etc. So stay tuned for that. Before we actually start making with the project, let's just do a quick review of functions, super quick, with while loops as well. Remember, they are a key component of Python. You can reuse them. Define your own function that needs to complete something with extra code, and there's built-in functions using the definition in order to create the function as said shown here. The while loop is helpful to iterate code until the condition is met. You will basically can make a while true loop, or if the while condition is true until that condition is met false, the loop will run consecutively until it becomes false, and then it'll break out of that loop as shown here. It's good with sequences. It's good if you're trying to determine specific values, if you're determining one output. If you want to run through segments of code, it's very, very helpful. Now that we have a decent understanding of how to use it, let's actually get started with our project. Just a few hints. If you do want to start this project with a few hints, I will give you a few. So please listen up. Your first hint, because you'll have to add, edit, remove, and view to-dos, you will want to make those as different functions. Some will be very quick, just a few lines, like let's say the add one. The add function shouldn't be too bad. You're just taking new task that the input gives and you're just adding it to the to-do list in storage or to the file. The second one is the view, which basically when the user calls for it, you need to make sure that it's displayed. And the view could include a view all, which through our walkthrough we will do two specific things using if-else nesting and for loops with that nesting in order to actually view it. But you can view all your tasks and you just print everything separating them. Or you would view by priority, so you would use a for loop to iterate through the row, and then you'd say if this priority potentially is in that list when you iterated it, print that specific item, or all the items within that specific priority. Remove is also very easy. The add and remove functions are undoubtedly the easiest functions you will be writing. It's just taking a task that the input gives and saying word for word, it has to be word for word in storage in memory, and then you just remove it using our methods we learned, append and remove. Finally, the edit one is a bit challenging because you need to take a specific task, and you will have some new keywords that will be used. So if you still need help, go find the section, check your code. That's absolutely welcome. But you would basically want to take that task and you'd want to replace it with a new task that you create. So, yeah. And for everyone learning how to create and write and read and close a file, this is where we're going to start. So this is a really important task you have to do. For a lot of code, you'll be required to open and create a new text file that you could read. It could be an existing file that you want to write to. It can be a new one. For this project, you will be creating a new one. So how would you do this? You would want to create a variable. We'll call it, typically a lot of people call it F. So we're going to call this F for file. And you would open. This is opening an existing or opening a non-existent file that you will basically create right on the go that will be storing other things in memory. Now, the formatting for this for parameters will be, let's comment this, it'll be the file name .txt. You can choose whatever file name, or if there is an existent file, just place that name. And then the second thing would be either an R, a W, or an A. Typically, we do R and W, because R signifies that you want to read the file provided here, and the W would signify you want to write to this file. We will be using both for this project, but let's just show. So, because our project is a to-do, we'll just name the first thing to-do f.text. This is important to do the .text because all the stuff that's being accepted into this project is through text, through strings, into lists. So it's important that you understand that, like, the type of data types we're using. And because this is the beginning and we didn't write anything to it, we just want to read the to-do. So we're going to put R. And this won't do anything yet. Like, we're just going to open it and we're going to keep it right there for us to read later on. However, for this project, we will need to create a list. So we'll just name it to-do for simplicity's sake, because our to-do list is, well, going to be a list that accepts to-dos. So we need to make sure to format it right. After this, you will want to actually command to read the file. A lot of people mistake the data types being used. Because we're trying to read the file into this empty list and placing all of this file as a list, we need to change the data type for everything in this file to be a string to be able to be accepted as appending to a file. We will use the eval command, which basically allows us to convert whatever we're reading and actually put that into a different data type. So we will take our to-do, our empty list, and we will set that equal to eval, or we could call it like evaluate, f.read. Read is a method that is being called to the f variable in order to read this file as stated here, and whatever we do, it evaluates it to append it to that. So it's just evaluating the data types. Finally, we need to make sure to close out of that file. Ignore the error message that comes here because it will say we don't have a file in the directory. That is true, but this is because we are creating a file. And later on in our code, we will actually write to this file. I'll quickly demonstrate how you can write to a file because that'll be pretty important to do for your project if you plan to attempt it on your own. But you will typically use this in the while loop when you're executing all your functions. So we will do the same. We'll call the same variable f equals open to do .text. But this time we would want to use a W because we are writing to that file. We want to be able to write to it, not reading. Here we will do f.write. We don't need to evaluate because we're writing stuff to it and because we already evaluated it to the to-do. But if you don't want to do eval yet, we could just do string, converting everything in the to-do to a string and writing it to this file. Because this is a string file, not a list file. This is a list, not a string. So it's like casting different data types to each other. Finally, we close out of this list, this file, to avoid extra closure. That's all you'll need to know for this specific project. We will still cover how to open, write to, and close files. That's pretty important. We'll probably go over that the next lessons with advanced objects and data types because obviously creating files is very important. But this is where we're going to start with our follow along with the project, so please stay tuned. We're going to start with the add method. Add function. This will basically add a to-do list, or to-do to the actual list. We'll use the def keyword to create a definition of the add function, which will add the to-do list. But in order to add a to-do list, we're going to take the input of the user using the program. So because we need to add three things, the name, the date, and the priority, I should have commented this. We will take three separate inputs. So we'll do name equals input, name of task. And this will get that input, set it to name. Next is date. You got it. Input, date of task, due date. Because it's a to-do list. And finally, we'll do priority. priority will include 3 kinds of priority: a low, medium, and high. And for this, because we want the user input to be exact, we will want to make sure that their response is just capitalized, so it matches this formatting if they choose to put all lowercase. So any kind of low, medium, or high capitalization will just format it to the capitalized. Next, we will create a row because every row will have this task inputted. So this row will have our name and then our date and then our priority. Finally, we will take our overall to-do list and we will append every row to that to-do list. So in the to-do, imagine it as like, this is your to-do, and then we have separate rows, or like that. That's every row, and then you close off the to-do list. So that would be how you would append a list to a list, which is a bit new, but as you understand now. That would be our add function. Next, we will let's just create our remove function for simplicity's sake because it's very quick. You can create functions in any order as long as you call them in the right order you have to when we're actually executing all of these functions. Because we're naming them separately for now, whichever one you write first doesn't matter. But we'll just do the quick and easy ones first, the more longer functions next. So we'll create def remove, and you'll basically want to find a to-do in the row, and if it is actually in that row, you can remove it. So let's create a variable find equals input. This is the task that the user will give us in order to remove. Which task would you like to find in or to do? Yeah. And we'll have to iterate through the huge to-do where that specific row of that task is to delete. So obviously we'll use a for loop. For row in to-do. For every row in our to-do list, we will attempt to find that task name. We'll say provide the name. If find in row. If it is in that row, we will just do to-do.remove row. And then boom, that task is basically removed. And those are the 2 really simple ones. Next, we're going to do the view function because that's a bit more challenging in terms of writing it. Because with the view, you can choose to view all of your to-dos or view by priority, we will want to ask the user input for which to-do they would like to review. So let's just give them a few options. Remember, variable naming is really helpful if you make it clear. Options equals input. Select how you want to view tasks. And this is a new thing if we didn't cover it before. /n will basically create a new line. And the next stuff after that will be on that new line. So we can do one view all, and then it's really helpful for doing it all in one line instead of like reprinting everything. So this is how we would probably do it. Yeah, that's how you would do that because you're asking for the user input. Now we will want to use if else statements, because if they choose this one, we'll have to do specific code. If we choose this one, we'll have to iterate through the to-do list, get the priority, and then view that specific task given that priority. So let's do that. If options equals, because the answer they'll give will be in string format, we need to make sure that this one is in a string, not a number, because it's not int input. If we did int input, that'd be options equals 1. But syntax, remember, pretty important. Now we want to iterate through our to-do and print every task in a nice formatting, because if we just printed it normally, it'd just be name, date, priority, and everything would be merged together, not really separated. So iterate. And because with the for loop, you don't have to use an existent variable. You can use like for I, which creates a new variable for every item in a specific thing to iterate through. We'll just do item in row. It'll just create this new variable item and print every item. And this is something new too. After you finish printing every item, you can, which is basically in the row, it's name, date, priority. After you sort through every item, you can end like the spacing between the item with a specific character to make it look nice and formatted. So this would basically output name of task, and then it'd separate it date of task, separate it priority, because these are different items, and then you're ending every printing of the item with this line. So it's really nice feature that they give you. Obviously, for formatting reasons, we would want to print empty space, empty space. Just makes it more clear. And we can do elif options equals 2. We would do priority equals input which priority task, because we want to figure out which one we need to sort through. We would ask them, what priority would you like to view? Obviously, capitalize. We don't want creating errors and handling those errors. We would, again, iterate through the to-do. And instead of using for item in row, because this is just everything unfiltered, we would want to filter it out with an outcome. So if the priority is in the row, then we would filter out. So it'll just say, okay, if low is in the low tasks, now print all of the low tasks. If low is in a medium task, you're not going to print that task because it doesn't contain low. Then you iterate. And then we just format it nicely. And then fix formatting. Because we need to make sure that they don't give us a 3, we'll say print that wasn't an option. And then continue. Continue just continues with the code as normal. In this instance, if you just wanted to keep it at here, because you know they'll only probably give 1 and 2, like, that's okay if you don't want the else statement. I'll just do it without the else statement, but typically it's nice that if you have an if, you end it with an else for handling. That's all you do for the view function. And finally, we have the remove. So, sorry, not remove, the edit. Whoa, edits. So the edit function is a bit challenging because you need to take a task, you need to replace it all. So we need to find the task we want to edit. So as we did with the remove, we'll do find equals input, but just word it differently. Name, which task would you like to edit in your to-do? Now we'll do a different one. We'll do found. And this will be a Boolean because we want to make sure that if that task is in your whole to-do, we can be able to edit it. Otherwise, it's just we didn't find that task. So for row in to-do, if find in row, found equals true. And because we want to make sure that this is in the to-do, we want to make sure that is this condition is true in order to actually create a new replacement of a task. If not found, we didn't really learn this, but basically this is like equivalent to not, which is the exclamation version. Is just saying if it's not like in it, you do this specific command. So it's like an else, but better worded. So if not found, or if not true, because we set found as false, if it's not false, then print that task was not assigned or not found. Try again. Return. This would do the same thing. It would just return nothing and it would go back to continuing with the code. This works as the same as continue because it continues with your code. Yeah. Basically, we would reiterate given these conditions. This would return back to this part of the code and it'd be like find a different task. And it could also return to your final thing, like which function would you like to do? Add, edit, remove, view, right? Now we want to iterate through the whole thing and actually remove that task and replace it with a new one. So this would do the same thing as your dot remove, except we're already making a new function and this function basically pretends that this one doesn't exist. So we need to redo the remove stuff. That's why for row in to do, if find in row, to do dot remove row. And finally, we'll just do the same thing as we did. Edit is basically a combination of the remove and add function plus a checking if that task is actually in before we add anything. So we'll do name equals input, name of task. Oh my god, I cannot type. Date is due. Equals like words. We should actually clarify that because if they start putting in numbers, that'd be really bad. So words equals input priority of task. Low, medium, high. And obviously, you guys got it. Dot capitalize. Okay. Now we have to create that new row equals name, date, priority. And to do dot append row, print added to do list. Great. Now we just made all 4 functions using our fundamental knowledge. So with this walkthrough, finally we will need to make that while loop. This is a bit challenging because we haven't covered them super great in depth, but it'll be really helpful once you actually use it, because then you'll know how to use a while loop with a big multiple functions. So with the while loop, because we already instantiated everything else, we'll just put while true. We don't need a specific condition. And this will keep on running until you choose to like close out of the program. And then yeah, if we technically wanted to, we could make a close function. We could be like close input, would you like to close? And then new line 1 equals yes. Ooh. I believe the keyword is exit. Yeah. And it basically exit your code if elif close equals 2. We'll just do return. You could do return here too. It works. Oh. Oops. We'll just do return. Okay, great. And now we'll just continue with our while true. This is going to be really straightforward. We can just title our to-do list, print to-do, list maker. And now we'll need to make a variable where they give us an input of which function they want to do. Let's do it the action equals input, select an action, and then 1 add, 2 we'll say remove, 3 view, 4 edit. If action equals 1, we will now call the function. So we'll do add, and then otherwise we'll do action is equal to 2. We said remove. Oh my god. We'll do remove elif action equals 3. We will view, and elif action equals 4. We'll edit. Well, what if they typed in, oh, I forgot the 5, because we made a close function. Elif action equals 5, close. Else, what if they type in like a 6 or a 7? Print that is not an action. Try again. We need to make sure that they actually write the tasks to the file, because if they end up coming back to this program, they want to make sure that they can see their existing to-dos, because files write and read and they will keep your data in place. So we will use this specific code and we will put that in, because as you add it, then you'll go and you'll put it in the right, you'll remove it, you'll actually interact with this file. That's all we really did need to do for this project, and let's attempt it. Great, it actually shows up. So let's do one. We'll say coding low, and we'll just say low and then low. And basically it added it to the to-do list. So we'll view our to-do list, and it, boom, it showed it. And I guess what we did a little mistake here when we added it, because it didn't really show add to to-do list. Oh, that's because we forgot to put add to to-do list. My fault. Oh. Basically attempting to terminate it. Great. So we'll add. Oh my gosh. We need to run out everything. Okay, this is what I really don't like with Colab, because sometimes it uses different wording for syntax when it's, yeah. I guess you could do return true. That works too. So oh my gosh. We'll delete it. We'll try whatever it asked us to. Typically, in other programs, you can just do break, and it will break your code. Exit typically works too. Mine is being really funky, and it wasn't being nice, so. It didn't run the cell. Guys, that's why it's important to run your cells instead of testing your program a billion times. Perks of being a programmer. Boom. And now we can view. We'll say 2. And we'll be low. Boom. Let's add another program. We'll say art. We'll say this is a high priority and this is high. Oh my gosh. And we will view it by priority. And we will say low. It only gave us the low priority. And if you didn't notice, when we closed out of the program, the file saved our previous coding one. So that's pretty cool to note. We also did with the capitals. So if we want to remove that one, we need to make sure we type it in right. And it did actually remove it. We just forgot to put the message. And boom. Let's test our closed program. and it did not do that. But that's okay. My co-op's being really funky. But that's basically how you would create a to-do list. Also, if you ended up stopping the program, all of your progress will save into the file because it's just writing and closing the file once you close the program. And there we have it. We did our first walkthrough project together using pretty simple functions, just a lot more with for ifs and new keywords like not, in. We have appending lists to lists. We have the end equals, which is pretty good to learn like syntax measures, actually implementing them, functions. And it's super easy. You just need to call the function name. And you typically use ifs. We even learned how to write to a file, closing the file, and reading a file, opening it. And we did have a bit of trouble with the closing program, but that's okay. So thank you so much. Please make sure to do our quiz next time. If you'd like to attempt this on your own, just for extra practice, create your own closing the program task. That'd be awesome. And you'd basically finish learning your good amount of functions, which is pretty hard for just fundamentals to functions. That's pretty good. So you're advancing more into Python. I congratulate you. Thank you so much for working with us at the first line, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be you on our website, navigating this course. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.